Hi everyone, welcome to Jesus, a Gospel of Love, the mystical Christ and the mystical teachings of the Christ. We are opening our hearts and minds and allowing our perception to be transformed. You know, Jesus always was teaching us to judge not, and he was teaching us to line up with God, to follow the inner goodness that is in our heart that comes from God. Blessed are the pure of heart, for they shall see God. And he was telling us to allow our perception to be transformed. You know, before you get the speck out of your brother's eye, get the log or the beam out of your own. He was teaching transformation of perception, looking at the world a different way 2,000 years ago. And now with his Course in Miracles, it's just so good. The training, the mind training, the workbook lessons of mind training, one lesson for each day of the year, and a beautiful text. It's very abstract and metaphysical to back up and help make the lessons more meaningful. And then we've just gone through the Manual for Teachers, and that's a great context for giving ourselves every opportunity to have a motivation to look upon the world differently, and open our hearts up and open our minds up to the vision of Christ. So today's workbook lesson is lesson 29. God is in everything I see. The idea for today explains why you can see all purpose in everything. It explains why nothing is separate, by itself or in itself. And it explains why nothing you see means anything. In fact, it explains every idea we have used thus far, and all subsequent ones as well. Today's idea is the whole basis for vision. You will probably find this idea very difficult to grasp at this point. You may find it silly, irreverent, senseless, funny, and even objectionable. Certainly God is not in a table, for example, as you see it. Yet we emphasized yesterday that the table shares the purpose of the universe. And what shares the purpose of the universe shares the purpose of its creator. Try then today to begin to learn how to look on all things with love, appreciation, and open-mindedness. You do not see them now. Would you know what is in them? Nothing is as it appears to you. Its holy purpose stands beyond your little range. When vision has shown you the holiness that lights up the world, you will understand today's idea perfectly. And you will not understand how you could ever have found it difficult. Our 6 2-minute practice periods for today should follow a now familiar pattern. Begin with repeating the idea to yourself and then apply it to randomly chosen subjects about you, naming each one specifically. Try to avoid the tendency towards self-directed selection, which may be particularly tempting in connection with today's idea, because of its wholly alien nature. Remember that any order you impose is equally alien to reality. Your list of subjects should therefore be as free of self-selection as possible. For example, a suitable list might include: God is in this coat hanger. God is in this magazine. God is in this finger. God is in this lamp. God is in that body. God is in that door. God is in that wastebasket. In addition to the assigned practice periods, repeat the idea for today at least once an hour, and looking slowly about you as you say the words unhurriedly to yourself. At least once or twice you should experience a sense of restfulness as you do this. God is in everything I see. And this can be very striking to have the lesson come in this form, and it's great to practice it in the given form. God is in everything I see. We could say the Holy Spirit and the Holy Spirit's purpose is in everything I see. The purpose of forgiveness is in everything I see. The sameness of the purpose of forgiveness is in everything I see. You can see that, this is not trying to bring spirit into matter, but it's just saying there's another way of looking at the world where we can feel the presence of God's love with everything we seem to look upon through the five senses, through the body's eyes, and the experience through the five senses. The purpose of God, which is the Holy Spirit, the Holy Spirit's purpose is in everything I see. This is part of that unified perception where we feel the depth of God's love and light, and then we let it transfer to all the images without exception. Holding no image is more special than another. Holding no image different from another. That's what's so beautiful about today's lesson. It's not about trying to find meaning in the form, because we've already seen from our early lessons, including lesson number 1, nothing I see means anything. But God is in everything I see because of the purpose of forgiveness, because of the Holy Spirit's interpretation, because of the perspective that Jesus is offering us to look upon the sameness. Make this year different by making it all the same. So it's so beautiful. And to support us today, we are at the very back of the manual for teachers. It's the clarification of terms. Introduction. This is not a course in philosophical speculation, nor is it concerned with precise terminology. It is concerned only with atonement, or the correction of perception. The means of the atonement is forgiveness. The structure of individual consciousness is essentially irrelevant because it is a concept representing the original error or the original sin. To study the error itself does not lead to correction if you are indeed to succeed in overlooking the error. And it is just this process of overlooking at which the Course aims. All terms are potentially controversial, and those who seek controversy will find it. Yet those who seek clarification will find it as well. They must, however, be willing to overlook controversy, recognizing that it is a defense against truth in the form of a delaying maneuver. Theological considerations as such are necessarily controversial, since they depend on belief and can therefore be accepted or rejected. A universal theology is impossible, but a universal experience is not only possible, but necessary. It is this experience toward which the Course is directed. Here alone consistency becomes possible, because here alone uncertainty ends. This Course remains within the ego framework where it is needed. It is not concerned with what is beyond all error, because it is planned only to set the direction towards it. Therefore it uses words which are symbolic and cannot express what lies beyond words. It is merely the ego that questions, because it is only the ego that doubts. The Course merely gives another answer once a question has been raised. However, this answer does not attempt to resort to inventiveness or ingenuity. These are attributes of the ego. The Course is simple. It has one function and one goal. only in that does it remain wholly consistent, because only that can be consistent. The ego will demand many answers that this course does not give. It does not recognize as questions the mere form of a question to which an answer is impossible. The ego may ask, how did the impossible occur? To what did the impossible happen? And may ask this in many forms. Yet there is no answer, only an experience. Seek only this, and do not let theology delay you. You will notice that the emphasis on structural issues in the course is brief and early. Afterwards and soon it drops away to make way for the central teaching. Since you have asked for clarification, however, these are some of the terms that are used. Mind, spirit. The term mind is used to represent the activating agent of spirit, supplying its creative energy. When the term is capitalized, it refers to God or Christ, i.e., mind of God or mind of Christ. Spirit is the thought of God which He created like Himself. The unified spirit is God's one Son or Christ. In this world, because the mind is split, the sons of God appear to be separate, nor do their minds seem to be joined. In this illusory state, the concept of an individual mind seems to be meaningful. It is therefore described in the Course as if it has two parts, spirit and ego. Spirit is the part that is still in contact with God through the Holy Spirit, who abides in this part but sees the other part as well. The term soul is not used except in direct biblical quotations because of its highly controversial nature. It would, however, be an equivalent of spirit, with the understanding that being of God, it is eternal and was never born. The other part of the mind is entirely illusory and makes only illusions. Spirit retains the potential for creating, but its will, which is God's, seems to be imprisoned while the mind is not unified. Creation continues unabated because that is the will of God. This will is always unified and therefore has no meaning in this world. It has no opposite and no degrees. The mind can be right or wrong depending on the voice to which it listens. Right-mindedness listens to the Holy Spirit, forgives the world, and through Christ's vision sees the real world in its place. This is the final vision, the last perception, the condition in which God takes the final step Himself. Here, time and illusions end together. Wrong-mindedness listens to the ego and makes illusions, perceiving sin and justifying anger, and seeing guilt, disease, and death as real. Both this world and the real world are illusions because right-mindedness merely overlooks or forgives what never happened. Therefore, it is not the one-mindedness of the Christ mind whose will is one with God's. In this world, the only remaining freedom is the freedom of choice, always between two choices or two voices. Will is not involved in perception at any level and has nothing to do with choice. Consciousness is the receptive mechanism receiving messages from above or below, from the Holy Spirit or the ego. Consciousness has levels and awareness can shift quite dramatically, but it cannot transcend the perceptual realm. As at its highest it becomes aware of the real world and can be trained to do so increasingly. Yet the very fact that it has levels and can be trained demonstrates that it cannot reach knowledge. The ego, the miracle. Illusions will not last. Their death is sure, and this alone is certain in their world. It is the ego's world because of this. What is the ego? But a dream of what you really are. a thought you are apart from your Creator and a wish to be what He created not. It is a thing of madness, not reality at all. A name for the namelessness is all it is. A symbol of impossibility, a choice for options that do not exist. We name it but to help us understand that it is nothing but an ancient thought that what is made has immortality. But what could come of this except a dream, which, like all dreams, can only end in death? What is the ego? Nothingness, but in a form that seems like something. In a world of form, the ego cannot be denied, for it alone seems real. Yet could God's Son, as He created Him, abide in form or in a world of form? Who asks you to define the ego and explain how it arose can be but he who thinks it is real and seeks by definition to ensure that its elusive nature is concealed behind the words that seem to make it so. There is no definition for a lie that serves to make it true, nor can there be a truth that lies conceal effectively. The ego's unreality is not denied by words, nor is its meaning clear, because its nature seems to have a form. Who can define the undefinable? And yet there is an answer even here. We cannot really make a definition for what the ego is, but we can say what it is not. And this is shown to us with perfect clarity. It is from this that we deduce all the ego is. Look at its opposite and you can see the only answer that is meaningful. The ego's opposite in every way, in origin, effect, and consequence, we call a miracle. And here we find all that is not the ego in this world. Here is the ego's opposite, and here alone we look on what the ego was. For here we see that all it seemed to do and cause and its effects must still be one. Where the darkness was, now we see the light. What is the ego? What the darkness was. Where is the ego? Where the darkness was. What is it now, and where can it be found? Nothing and nowhere. Now the light has come. Its opposite has gone without a trace. Where evil was, there now is holiness. What is the ego? What the evil was. Where is the ego? In an evil dream that but seemed real while you were dreaming it. Where there was crucifixion stands God's Son. What is the ego? Who has need to ask? Where is the ego? Who has need to seek for an illusion now that dreams are gone? What is a miracle? A dream as well, but look at all the aspects of this dream and you will never question any more. Look at the kindly world you see extend before you as you walk in gentleness. Look at the helpers all along the way you travel, happy in the certainty of heaven and the surety of peace. And look an instant too on what you left behind at last and finally passed by. This was the ego. All the cruel hate, the need for vengeance, and the cries of pain, the fear of dying, and the urge to kill, the brotherless illusion, and the self that seemed alone in all the universe. This terrible mistake about yourself, the miracle corrects as gently as a loving mother sings her child to rest. Is not a song like this what you would hear? Would it not answer all you thought to ask, and even make the question meaningless? Your questions have no answer, being made to still God's voice, which asks of everyone one question only. Are you ready yet to help me save the world? Ask this instead of what the ego is, and you will see a sudden brightness cover up the world the ego made. No miracle is now withheld from anyone. The world is saved from what you thought it was, and what it is wholly uncondemned and wholly pure. The miracle forgives, the ego damns. Neither need be defined except by this. Yet could a definition be more sure or more in line with what salvation is? Problem and answer lie together here, and having met at last, the choice is clear. Who chooses hell when it is recognized? And who would not go on a little while when it is given him to understand the way is short and heaven is his goal? Beautiful. Wow. What is the ego? What the darkness was. Where is it now? Nowhere. Yeah. Who has need to ask? Jesus is taking us beyond the words. Beyond the words. Yeah. Have a beautiful day. Shine your light. Share your love. Remember today's lesson. God is in everything